Hey everyone, Michael Barton here from Yahoo Esports, and I am joined by my exclusive, well, infiltration usually translator, but my exclusive Korean translator, Burnout.
I'm honored.
We're gonna go over some Dhalsim tips and primers for you, maybe your mid-level, more experienced players who are trying to break through that ceiling. Basically, get good with Dhalsim is what I'm saying.
Hopefully, I don't bore you guys with all the technicalities, but this character is worth playing if you know everything. So let's get down to it.
Sounds good. How did you know I didn't have fun with my character? Everybody knows I didn't have fun with my character.
I don't even have to know. I just know
You just know.
them picking the new character on like the first week or something.
You just know, okay.
But it's not the right. Even I don't think that's the right way to think.
Sure.
But that would be the first thing that would go.
But you're testing them.
Yeah.
You want to see how they react to this or that.
But if it's in a tournament match, I would actually try unsafe things a lot and see how they react.
Right.
To feel them out a little.
Right.
All right. So what I'm doing in this first match is trying to be as far as I can from the opponent. That's how naturally most players would think how Dhalsim approach the matches, of using the sense of range.
Right.
Normally, fighting games do have technical terms for offense and defense, so it comes down to hitbox, hurtbox, frame data, and things like frame advantage, disadvantage, safe, unsafe, plus, all those terminologies. But now, what Dhalsim brings up on the table is the sense of distance and range. With this unique ability to throw out limbs in a range, some even in the full range, like full screen range. There are things that you can abuse that are kind of aren't even unexplainable, and also, even when explained, it's very unique to his situation. So, like, I guess in a tournament match, usually most Dhalsims, most sensible Dhalsim players would try the safe approach of trying to be as far as they can from the opponent at any time. Unless, of course, there are opportunities that are given to you to be up close, which gives them the maximum damage. Being able to, but at the same time, being able to kind of maneuver your Dhalsim to be as far as they can, to be safe as they can, is, I would say, the most first, like, dimensional thinking, the thought process of the Dhalsim player and the opponent going against the Dhalsim. See, now that actually sets up the mind game of, in the next following match, whether the Dhalsim lost or won the first match, is that gives that freedom for the Dhalsim player to change up next match, or give the fear of to the opponent that, oh my god, this Dhalsim player is playing way too safe. So all the risky things that I do would actually be overlooked and get punished even. So it's kind of that freedom of being able to switch your approach on the spot. And that was interesting. But yeah, usually, yeah. See, that's the first thought process of most players. Whether you're the Dhalsim player or you're going against the Dhalsim player. All right, Dhalsim's gonna abuse all the limbs, teleport shenanigans, all that. That's fine. That's the normal way to think about it. Some players like to go ham on their first game. That's fine too. But what that has a risk of is that once they do all the offensive stuff and doesn't seem to work out, then their options are quite limited, because people already know the normal way of how Dhalsim is usually played, even when there aren't as much mix-ups that are shown on the table. So this match that we're playing right now, I'll try to approach as much as I can with the new tools given to Dhalsim in Street Fighter V that allows him to actually rush down, which is an interesting way of describing how Dhalsim would be traditionally be played. Now that Dhalsim is able to rush down more,
Yeah.
kind of gives him that opportunity to do a lot of damage up close, which wasn't really the case in the past iterations of Dhalsim, where yes, they had to be up close to do combos, right? But it wasn't more for the damage. It was more of an opportunistic thing where they would hit them and still focus on the runaway game. Although most setups in the game aren't optimal, the outcome of most knockdowns that Dhalsim scores actually allows him to prepare for a meaty jump in. Well, I wouldn't say a jump in technically, but teleport in.
Right.
Which is the same concept for Dhalsim as if he's jumping with an ordinary character, because everyone knows Dhalsim has a very flowy jump. It's not really used for a jump in. You have to utilize the instant air teleports to make it look like a jump in. I'm going to stay close as much as I can. Close range battles. Yeah. So like if this was tournament, first match I tried to be safe and I lost.
Right.
That's obviously a loss is not fine, but it allows the Dhalsim players to change up like drastically.
Sure.
For me to actually approach the opponent. You could even think of it as the first match to test out the water, see how the opponent reacts to it, and I'm actually trying to play safe.
Right.
Playing safe is always good, but it has its limits. So, because in the long run, the player who's most offensive will eventually be higher and a better advantage, better results even. So it's very flashy when you give the concept of rush down to Dhalsim, because that was kind of never been done since the days of Super Turbo. But in Super Turbo, the game itself was kind of designed for everyone to be allowed to go, just go nuts.
Right.
Where in this game, they kind of kept it conservative, but gave unique abilities to characters, so that the players can actually decide during the match, even during mid-match, to switch it up, whether they want it to be aggressive or defensive. Now, this might be a subtle thing to even be thought about, but characters like Dhalsim, everybody knows he's unique. Everybody traditionally knows he's unique. And people who the game is like just over a year old. People who've followed the Street Fighter V scene closely will know that now Dhalsim is capable of all these new things. People still like to say shenanigans. But statistically though, Dhalsim and I believe also Fang kind of shares the same stats where they're just very low in terms of popularity.
Right.
So still to this day, you can kind of luck out on certain matches with the element of surprise, and as well as the unfamiliarity. People say yes, that's obvious, and it doesn't affect in high-level matches. But the thing is, because the character itself that much less discovered in the world of today, where there's internet, YouTube videos, online content, tournaments even. It's very rare to see many Dhalsims. I know some regional FGC have very high density Dhalsims, like in terms of player base. But overall, you can see the stats results in the Capcom Fighters Network. That I believe Dhalsim and Fang is like the bottom 3 in terms of character pick. Every season, every weekly statistics I believe they have put up. Now, is that a thing to be considered even when it comes to matchups or tournament planning? it's just one of those things where, because it's a factual thing,
Right.
it just counts by default. So you will see, if you experience a lot of tournaments, you'll see people's facial expressions like, oh, I'm facing against a Dhalsim. Like, the first facial expression is the face of disgust. It's like, oh my god, it's like Dhalsim. Like, I know what Dhalsim is. I know what Dhalsims are capable of. But in the back of the head, it's like, I don't know what to do against it. That plays a big role in tournaments. That being said, you should never underestimate your opponent, which kind of is a counter logic to what I said earlier, saying, yeah, when I see people picking new characters, I start, making fun of them inside of me. Like,
Right.
it's not gonna do much damage on me, right? But as a basis of a tournament player, whether you're a professional, whether you're a fan of the game, it should be something that, in a competitive atmosphere, is to keep it, obviously, keep things civil, it's a small venue space with a lot of people who are in the same area, common goal as you to do well in tournaments. But this, despite the relationship, like the human relationship of respect or even just general greetings, it's never a good thing to underestimate your opponents. Even if you know that a certain player hasn't really performed that well. It's kind of like disrespecting yourself even.
When you want to make the change from being sort of, I guess, more defensive to being more aggressive, as a Dhalsim player, what are you looking for to kind of make, like you said, become more rushdown? What are you looking for, and what are you doing as a Dhalsim player?
I guess there are things that I can spot also on the opponent's end when I play safe. There are times when players, for example, they want to jump in at a certain time, or I can see that they're not punishing some of my stuff properly. Then I can take that to my advantage of being able to risk a little more than I would be able to when I'm very defensive. So yes, there are a lot of things that are, like, Dhalsim is generally unsafe.
Right.
As a character. A lot of his pokes, normals, specials, there are only very specific things that are safe. And the opponent tends to find that out really early in the game because Dhalsim would always abuse the safe move, and it is the same move, which is the back medium kick into the medium punch flame. It's a true block string, and it's safe on block. So everything else other than that generally are unsafe. Some players who have the experience would punish everything, like literally everything that I do, that are combos or pokes that don't end with the medium punch yoga flame. Like, it's crucial to know that all of Dhalsim's slides, so light kick, medium kick, heavy kick. Heavy kick is quite exempt because on hit it does knockdown, so it's fine.
Sure.
But the light kick and the medium kick slides are unsafe on hit, which is very unique to a fighting game. Slides itself is kind of designed so that you can low profile under certain moves, including fireballs. So they actually do serve a purpose. But when there are situations where you're being pressured and the opponent is like right up on your face, and your only option is to do a low attack, Dhalsim unfortunately has 3 different variations of slide which are not cancelable to any special moves. So the move itself is already a risk. And it's kind of, it's very controversial against other Dhalsim players that, oh, Dhalsims need a cancelable low, which we might see very soon. Thanks to Capcom opening up the betas recently. But yeah, having a move that is naturally unsafe on hit is already saying that you're playing, I hate using this word, bad character in comparison to the other characters.
Right.
Like, why don't I have a normal crouching forward hit?
Right.
Have to be a slide that is not cancelable, and I have to take risk every time I press a single button, where I can play another character who can, say, for example, cancel into fireballs to make it pseudo-safe, do it from max range so that I can be safe from counter pokes and things like that. Dhalsim don't have that luxury. But like I said, if I go back to my theory of playing safe in the first round, I can try those early in the game and see whether the opponent actually punishes that or not. If they don't, then it gives me the idea of, all right, I can abuse this a little more, use it in my mix-ups. Despite that it is frame data-wise unsafe, it will kind of put that conditioning in the opponent where I give that fear that, oh, my move is actually very mix-up heavy. Which on paper, if you write it down, frame data, everything, all that, I'm risking so much every time I do every mix-up that looks like I'm on the pressure aside, but every time I press those buttons and you block them, or even if you get hit by them, I'm giving up my turn for my follow-up sequence. So therefore, obviously, if you have a good mix of offense and defense, and the ability to switch up during mid-tournament, mid-competition, I would say that person would be a very good overall player, regardless of what character they play. But Dhalsim specific, it is something essential. And also, speaking of essential, Dhalsim's in general is very execution heavy. Which is very funny combination. Heavy execution character who isn't quite good. It's a weird combination to have. Normally, you would want to be rewarded with heavy execution, and it would cover the bad side of the character.
Right.
So because you're doing that well, Dhalsim, you've got so much to risk. Like every input mistake will cost you the game. Even every wrong decision will cost you the game, which applies to everybody. But Dhalsim, it's very critical because it could literally be that one move. One example being the teleports, which is the Dragon Punch motion with all three punches or kicks. Now there's two mistakes that you can make with that teleport. One is that you have to do, Dhalsim players want to do a lot of instant air versions of their teleports, because their ground version teleport is, although strike invincible at the startup, people can throw it out of it. And as well as if it actually, if the opponent actually reacts to it, it is punishable by just any character either jumping forward or dashing forward. They can punish it just like that, very simple. Some characters have slides that advances the character forward, so therefore making it easier to punish. But if people react to it, the whole character roster can basically dash up and do a full combo on a ground teleport. In order to perform the instant air teleport, you have to do the old school style of tiger knee, which is ending your input up forward or back forward to perform the teleport, or in general to perform that special move as soon as the character goes off the ground. What that allows Dhalsim to do on the teleport is when they recover from the teleport on the other end, they can perform an air attack. Any of the air normal attacks, as well as the air yoga flame, which in this game is called the yoga gale, the air flame. On the ground teleport, he cannot perform those, so it's crucial to do that. But yes, in compared to other characters, which the instant air version of any special move is unnecessary for them, for Dhalsim it's like you have to do it, otherwise you're not qualified to play Dhalsim. because more than half of his maneuvers are really reliant on the instant air teleport.
Right.
So the two things I want to mention about how the mistakes happen is either they don't press all three punches or kicks right, but like one of their fingers might press the other button earlier, and what they get is a floaty air effect, which leaves them vulnerable for the full duration of the floaty attack. The other one is not as critical, but in this game, there's a weird mechanic. I wouldn't say it's weird, but there's a mechanic where special moves can be somewhat cancelled from the first frame of a whiff normal. So what I just said might be really, really complicated, but what it is, for example, you would have performed the instant air teleport correctly, but not at the intended frame data of the startup. So for example, I might have cancelled the teleport from my accidental whiff of a jump jab, the first frame of it. So what that does is, if you want to do a specific setup that actually is dependent on the actual frame data, which is the third frame of the teleport is when the active frame happens. But doing that accidental first frame cancel makes that one frame difference, so that your setup might not be legit. It's a fake setup, accidental fake setup. But to a normal human eye, it's not something that you would see and detect. Even the Dhalsim player won't know that Dave did it. Dave did that mistake. So in order to cover that is that I recommend all Dhalsim players to do it, is to use the shortcut buttons of the all three punches and kicks on your, if you're using a stick, your 4th and 8th button. If you're playing on a pad like players like Diaz, I don't know if he does use that button, but I highly recommend them using that, so that if you perform your instant air teleports, that you get them out on that intentional frame. It applies to a lot of other special moves in the game. In Street Fighter 4, we used to call them Kara cancels.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's the same concept. It's an accidental cancel that you could do if you're trying to do an EX. Some characters actually get advantage from it, because it might give them an extra thrust in forward movement, in that momentum, or maybe their extra invincibility, depending on if that special move has invincibility. For Dhalsim, some of their moves that are a setup after an up-down usually won't get punished by a reversal, but sometimes you would question yourself, I did the setup right, but why am I getting punished by the move that should be safe against? Is because that happened.
Right.
Accidental power cancel. Sorry if that was way too technical. But, I mean, that's about it, really. Other than that, it is fact that Dhalsim has really bad defense. So, in tournament play, it is crucial to for you to be on the offense a lot, which is already a hard achievement. But thankfully, this pseudo rush down ability allows Dhalsim to kind of carry on his setups, even if they get blocked. And hopefully, more people play Dhalsim.
So if you're a Dhalsim player who is not a beginner, maybe is at sort of a ceiling right now, what does a mid-level player do?
Right.
What can they work on that can get them to like, say, for example, they're stuck in gold online. Obviously, a lot of this we want to sort of apply towards like tournament, but as an example, say someone's stuck in gold.
Yes.
How do they break through that ceiling?
Dhalsim is one of those characters that allows the personality to come out,
right,
and to be expressed directly, unlike most characters already kind of have their textbook way of playing, because they're either that good, or the design of the character kind of only works if you play that certain meta.
Yeah.
But Dhalsims have that flexibility to either change up on the spot, and also you see some players actually get advantage, for example, teleporting a lot.
Right.
Or some Dhalsim players don't even teleport enough, but still kind of find a way out of it, right? To win. Dhalsims allow you to do that. So in order for you to be leveling up on your current Dhalsim, if it's kind of struggling, Dhalsim is very heavily dependent on also the manual spacing of his moves.
Right.
One of the moves that highlight that is his dive kicks. Some players even rate Dhalsim's dive kick to be the best in the game, because if the player is capable of manually knowing where the dive kick is going to land, preferably the lower body part of the opponent, which gives that plus frames.
Right.
That isn't guaranteed. That is a move that you threw out because you know that it's going to land at that specific position in terms of manual spacing, which is very hard because firstly, Dhalsim is not a character that depends on jumping. However, have to kind of take advantage of that floaty jump to cancel into the dive kicks. Now, not as much as the dive, not as deep as the dive kick, but the similar concept also applies to all of his limbs. You can practically win a match just by depending on your limbs and knowing the distance. Right. Now, if you just relentlessly throw out your limbs, they're very easy to be punished if they're out of range or get crush countered. So a lot of them is obviously trial and error, but being able to kind of foresee where your move's gonna end up, especially for Dhalsim, is a big thing.
Right.
And not having, like, some characters can benefit off not knowing everything, but it is crucial for Dhalsim players to know everything. That is the difference. And it'll actually help you to enjoy the game better because you will have the feeling of I'm utilizing everything that's in the books,
right,
as well as taking advantage of the opponent's unfamiliarity of it. It'll help you level up and as well as enjoy the game. Some characters don't lose as much because they can kind of cover up their mistakes or their unfamiliarities with probably even with the button that is like, say for example, safe on block. Like I said, Dhalsim has almost no safe on block moves. That's why it kind of is worth it and will help you in the long run to know everything, which is a hard task because there is no definition of everything yet for every character just yet. But if you are losing on a certain thing, that at least if you're a Dhalsim player, that might just mean that you are unknown in that specific area.
Right. Well, I'm glad I got one game off you.
Well, I think that's you've used my Colleen unfamiliarity on me.
Right.
So that's the thing.
Well, plus you gave me some tips a couple days ago, so I try to abuse that too.
Awesome. I'm also trying to work on my Colleen as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll try to play that in tournament sometime soon.
Yeah. Just fun character. Dhalsim seems like a fun character.
You can make Dhalsim a fun character, but like I said, it kind of takes time and work to know everything, and it's just because Dhalsim is that bad of a defensive character, knowing all the defensive options will definitely give you less frustration.
Yeah,
even for
that's your get good.
Yeah,
your
even for
get good Dhalsim
players. There are stuff being discovered every day.
Sure.
Really. So there's gonna be a whole lot more if more people play this character. It's just like I said, it's not that popular, unfortunately. Yeah. So
sounds good. Burnout, thank you for the Dhalsim primer.
Thank you for having me.
I hope the Dhalsim players out there can get good.